everybody, welcome to One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin.
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
This is my co-host, Jim Green. This has been a year in the making.
It's really been 23 years in the making. Who wants to tell it? You or me? I don't know. Let's do it. What's going on, everyone? How we doing today? We are recording on Tuesday. This is the biggest Tuesday of all time. Tuesdays. Yeah, we are on the
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I had before I get into that, it's relevant, but my name's Jim Green, along here with my best friend, my brother Anthony Irvin. How you doing, my man? How's your weekend?
Not too bad. It was eventful. We actually went and seen the Shen Yun performance over in Philly at the Merriam Theater, which I was very taken back by. I mean, I wasn't at first, like, not that I wasn't happy to go see it, but I'm like, okay, this is going to be like another theater orchestra type of thing. And it's not usually my cup of tea, but after watching it, I'm like, all right, this was actually really good, you know?
I remember you saying to me last week, you're like, I am not that you're so not looking forward to it, but you wouldn't go out of your way to go see it, right? You just happen to get free tickets through work, right?
Yeah, they got us all tickets. So I'm like, and it was one of those things where I unfortunately the last couple times where we had like certain events, one time I was sick and the other time I had something that I couldn't go to the other event. So I was kind of, stuck with getting into this one at this time. But, at the end of the day, after watching it and being, a part of it, it was actually a really nice show. And they put on a really good performance, being, a dance performance. And they had like the whole big orchestra. Nobody has ever really seen the Shen Yun, theater performance, it kind of goes into a lot of depths of Chinese culture and Chinese dance and everything. So it was really informational, and I liked how they told a lot of stories about old Chinese culture and put it into a dance form. It, for me, the non-dancer, it made it more interesting than just seeing a regular non-story picted dance, just people dancing around, which these people were very good at what they do. But I think the stories, that when they had a story behind the historical pieces of what they were dancing about, it kept the person and the people interested in what they were doing. Because then when they were telling the story before the dance started, you can kind of walk through and be like, okay, this is what they were talking about, this guy's doing this girl's doing that. So it was a very good performance. The dancing and colors and everything was very spectacular. So if you haven't seen it before, I would highly recommend it. Being a non-dancer, I would highly recommend it. For a good night out. So
It's good to know. I actually, you said that you were going to that, and I was like, wait, I just started seeing like promotional material for that, and I was like, what's this? So knowing that you went and saw and enjoyed it, because at first you were like pretty apprehensive.
yeah.
I did have a small slither in my brain that said, I think that he might find a way to really be into this. Not like I got to go back every year, but
right. I mean, they were saying that the show actually changes every year, so they don't have the same show every year. They always scrap what they did that year, and then they do a whole brand new show every year, which is pretty interesting too. But again, like you said, it's not like I'm going to go back next year. They could be like, oh, okay, what are they going to do this year? I mean, but it's interesting that they change it up every year. So
yeah, and you got to think, and I like acknowledge this in my head sometimes, but the history of our country is only like not even. I mean, obviously before like the American Revolution.
Yeah.
And okay, so you want to go back to um, like the colonies and all that. I'm trying to think. I don't remember when Christopher Columbus discovered America. I don't remember how far back that was. But I know colonies were a thing first before we became the United States, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we're shoot. I think the
My
civil.
history is horrible, so do not ask me.
I I was good. I was good with the dates. Um, Ninth grade. Funny story. Uh, it's not that funny. People aren't going to laugh about this, but the second marking period, uh, I got like not a great grade, like a C minus or something in social studies. And then the third marking period, we had like not a lot of assignments, and our one test was like you had to know the name of the war and who the war was against,
Yeah.
and if you knew the dates, it was extra credit.
I
Well, I
think I
memorized
remember that.
I
Yeah.
I memorized all of them. So instead of getting 100% on a test, I got 150. So I wound up with like 103 for the marking period.
There you go.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, just bounce back off that real fast.
Yeah.
um, I just forget what the first. I want to say it was, the Revolutionary War back in 1776.
I was gonna say
Um,
1776, but I wasn't gonna uh,
yeah.
put my C
It,
D grade history mind out there.
your compact disc history
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. My low grade history mindset is not something that needs to be toggled with these days.
Yeah. So I mean, um, I forget how little of history our country has compared to all of the other countries in the Eastern Hemisphere. Like,
Hmm.
I'm sure Chinese history is no wonder they can recreate new pieces every year about
Yeah,
Chinese culture because they have so much that they can get into.
right.
Um, so that would be really cool. I would actually like to check that out if you're recommending it.
I think you would definitely appreciate
A-
it as as a dancer. I
mhm,
think you would highly really appreciate everything that is done in that whole show because what, like I said, when it just not even just the dances, but the colors, the props, and everything, and I won't give it too much away, but one thing that I liked is they had the screens behind them and they were able to do things to kind of you know go in and out of these things without me trying to give away a lot of the act. But that was like the theatrics, I guess you can kind of say, was really cool. That kind of put the extra sauce on the
right.
performance.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's just a testament to technology itself, and the you're saying LED boards essentially.
Yeah, it's almost like if they had like the projectors running on them,
Mhm.
and then the
Yeah,
dancers are kind of being able to go in and out of them and everything. And it again, not trying
that's
to
cool.
give away the performance, but like it's not like it was an essential part of the act, but it was like in a couple of the acts that they had, and it was like really cool that it was like timing, like and the timing that coming, and I guess that was the thing from a musician standpoint for me, like when they were hitting those numbers, I'm like, you have to be on point. Because
Oh yeah.
if you hit that on like if you hit that like maybe 1 second off, it's not gonna look the right way. So you have to
Well,
be on point when that thing happens.
it's
So that
it's
was
like
cool in that type of way.
it's like tap dancing. Jeez, just having this conversation tonight with some of my students, because tap it just be it unfortunately has become like just less popular and
Mm.
in the last couple of decades, and I think it's and I'm a statistic here because I tried tap for 3 weeks and gave up on myself because I literally wasn't progressing in what 3 classes, but like
Mm,
I was memorizing the terms and I was memorizing like the technique of how to do it. I just kept sliding all over the place. I kept slipping. I was like, I
mm,
can't get myself grounded in
right.
order to be able to accommodate, this technique. But all 3 of my sisters tapped. They were all great at it. So I was always kind of like, that's I'm gonna leave that to them.
Yeah.
But it's one of my favorite things to watch because in order to get tapped to a position where you're not just good, you're really good or you're great.
Mhm.
So much dedication. Like
Yeah.
just I can't fathom it. I just was watching one of my students in New Jersey yesterday. Actually, he messaged me and was like, "Hey, my director wanted me to check out, or wanted you to check out my tap solo when you got here." I was like, "Totally." So I got there and he showed me a bit, and I was like, I mean, I heard that this studio was like pretty well known for tap, but I've never seen the work. And um, he got done doing it, and I went over and I checked. Jeez,
No,
I
jeez.
shook, I shook the director's hand. I was like, I knew who you were, but I didn't know exactly what you did, and that's something. No wonder you're running this studio, right?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we got out of that, and the timing, especially, I was watching uh, that student do a solo, um, but I've seen groups like tap groups where the entire group is just insane, and I'm like, how? How are
Right.
they that precise
Yeah.
that I'm watching? And I'm like, it's the best. It's the best thing. We can talk about uh, in dancing, being on a specific rhythm or hitting specific accents in the music in
Right.
sequence. It's just coined as like your musicality.
Yeah.
So it's your connection to the music, which we were just talking about that essentially before
Mhm.
we started recording.
Yeah.
Is our perspectives, and we're not going to get into this a lot in this episode,
Right.
um because we already talked about when we wanted to do that coming up. um, but how you perceive dance being a non-dancer, but your relationship with music versus how I'm perceiving the music as, I don't want to say a casual listener, because I depend on music for how I choreograph and create what I do, because
Uh-huh.
it's creating that relationship, right?
Yeah.
So when you basically zeroing this back here to what you're saying is their timing with the music, if it was one count off, it ruins the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is like with attack group, if you got one dancer that's off, it's obvious.
Yeah.
There's no hiding it. There's no recovering from it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, off,
And
because
in music wise, like you were saying, it's kind of like how musicians, we mostly, or a lot more, more professional, bigger acts these days, they're playing to a click in their ear. So if you're off by like a count, it can throw off the whole performance or the whole song, and you have to either stop it and reset it. But usually a lot of bands, they're playing their whole song and it's programmed, their whole 30-40 minute set is programmed to a click. So like when you're done a song, you have the click still going and you're like, okay, there's 2 or 3 4 measures before the next song clicks on, so you're waiting for that time, and then you're starting the next song. But if you don't come in on that one, it messes up the whole song. Then you're like,
production.
okay,
Yeah.
it must, yeah, it messed up the whole production with it. So it's like you with the tap dancing, how you were saying, like with everybody being in the precise timing of being able to like tap at the same time is like I said, an art form, and it takes a lot of dedication to get to be on that time and be that precise. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. Um, so I'm gonna have to check that out one year because I would totally, uh, like you said,
Yeah.
probably appreciate it on a higher level. And I can't even imagine if, and this is the thing with the world and like with technology is like seeing things now compared to how we saw things 20 years ago. It's like night and day. I can't even imagine when we're 20 years older from now what things are going to look like.
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's a little nerve wracking, but the standards with dance, uh, the dance industry, I should say,
Uh-huh.
um, have just been growing with time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was at a point um, where I was dancing like heavily into my mid 20s, started tapering a little bit in my later 20s. Um, and when I say dancing, I mean like performing dancing and like training, uh, taking a lot of classes still. I think I really gravitated into um, trying to challenge my mind as a choreographer.
Mhm.
Um, once I hit my and not that I wasn't earlier. It was like okay, I am working towards that, but I'm still dancing
Yeah.
a lot. So, and training a lot. So, I think um, once I got into my 30s, um, the crew that I was dancing with, which we've talked about on previous episodes, um, everyone started getting a little older and um, parting into different avenues of their lives. So, I mean, we would still get together uh, twice a year up until COVID hit. Now I haven't seen. Um, let me think. I haven't seen a couple of them since before the pandemic started. So two
Uh-huh.
years. Um, and then I want to say I've seen three or four of them here and there, but not much.
Mhm.
Um, definitely my one, probably closest friend in the group at the time. I was seeing him. Well, I didn't see him for like the quarantine version of
Yeah.
COVID. Once we got to um, the summer and things were starting to lift a little bit, I
Left a
think
little bit more, yeah.
was when I first saw him again, and then I started seeing him a little bit more and a little bit more uh,
Mhm.
over the course of the next year before we, traveled for our backup performances this past summer, and then um, after that, I hadn't seen him until when my buddy was in town from Nebraska a couple weeks
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah.
Um, I got to see him that night, so that was cool. But yeah, the rest of them I have barely seen, and it's just wild. But at any rate, once that started fizzling a little bit, I started focusing more on like my creative process and how I was approaching things and really dissecting into that
Uh-huh.
because I was dancing less, so I was like I want to really focus on my creative process,
Mhm.
um, and it fell in good timing because now I'm like okay, if I wanted to dance again, all I have to do is get myself back in shape so that I can
Right.
accommodate where I was, but not only where I was, but I like because the standards are always rising. It's a matter of
Mhm.
like there's things that I definitely wanted to be able to do um, that I hadn't achieved yet, and I'm like, I mean, realistically, I'm at a point where I just feel like I could turn it around and go that route, but because I haven't been performing and I don't have anything coming up.
Yeah.
I just it's like they say Channing Tatum, he just loses himself, and then if he
Yeah.
books it, and then not loses himself, but he just like lets himself go a little bit or whatever, and then when he books a movie role, he'll just like shut everything out, be completely dead focused on being in shape for that role. So
Mhm.
I think if I had, I actually have. I haven't told you this. I have a thing in the works. Um, it's just the and these are people I haven't danced with yet, so I'm pretty excited about this.
Awesome.
I have a thing in the works, but the scheduling has just been brutal because the people involved and the distance in between us. It's going to be like, okay, we go in on this day and we try to knock out almost the whole routine like creatively,
Yeah.
and then once we have that, it's we're going to be practicing on our own, which fortunately I have a space right over here
Uh-huh.
uh, that I can work on it, but it's a matter of uh, the people involved. We're going to be creating it collectively. So up until we get to that point, which I think that um, we actually do have a planned date to meet to um, spend a few hours and try to get this moving. Um, and I think once I have that, um, plus the fact that I'm turning 35 on Sunday, so I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
we got a birthday dude coming.
that's right. So I think uh, once I once we have our first uh, brainstorm meet for the creative end, I can say, okay, what's the expectation, and budget my schedule and say, how do I work myself to get in the best shape that I can for this piece. And the best thing is that um, it's like you with your new album that you're creating.
Yeah.
You don't have a set deadline on when you're doing it. We don't have a set deadline on when we're performing it. We have opportunities that are like some are coming up really soon, but we're like, no, we want to like it. We want to be able to meet to clean and
Yeah.
make sure when we debut it that we're solid. And
Yes.
that doesn't take just us practicing on our own at our own time. It takes obviously it's like you working with a band.
Yeah.
You gotta meet together to make sure that everyone is in sync.
In sync. Oh, no pun intended. Oh.
All the puns
Yeah,
intended, right?
I think that is definitely something that it's not like I've struggled with, but I've always been, you know, in the mindset of like, okay, get it out, and like in, to the point is like, if it's good enough, it'll be able to go out. But like, I've really been trying to take my time with this album, and especially since I've been producing the whole album myself, recording, mixing, and mastering. In the past, I've kind of swept things under the rug to be like, okay, well, this just sounds okay. I mean, I'll just let it go. But if now it's like now I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, if that's something I don't like, I fix it. Because
Right,
then I know if I don't like it now, I'm not gonna like it later. And then when I put it out, I'm gonna be like, I should have re-recorded that, or I should have mixed that better. I should have taken an extra week to do this. So, uh, I'm definitely learning to be more
patient.
patient and
Yeah,
being
yeah,
able to get what I want out of what I'm trying to do instead of just settling for what is good enough, you know, and there's never anything that's going to be perfect. I'm not striving for perfection, but it's like, I'd rather not. If I know at the moment that I know something's either not sounding right or not looking right, I fix it at that point instead of my old mind being like, it's okay. Either they won't notice or it's like it's just like it'll be good enough. Like, no, if it's something that I feel I can fix, I fix it. Or
right,
if it's something that I can mask to the point where like it works within it, then I'm fine with it. If as long as I'm fine with it, then I'm good, because I've had numerous amounts of songs where I've put them out and then months later I'm like, I should have probably taken another take and done that better. Or I probably should have spoken up and said, hey, I don't like that drum fill there. Or, hey, this little thing seems to be off a little bit. Can we, so now that I'm doing stuff on my own and knowing that I don't have a set date for this album, but I do have the first single coming out next month. Hint, hint. If you guys want to be listening to that, I'll probably give a little more information at the end of the podcast. So make sure you stay tuned. uh, but it's to the point where I'm getting better at being patient and making sure that I'm loving what I'm doing before the work is done.
Yeah. Yep. I
So
mean,
yeah,
it's like I said, other than the couple backup gigs that I did over the summer, and I mean, just being honest, I those gigs come up like kind of quick out of nowhere
yeah,
sometimes. Actually, I think yeah, no, because I did a whole stretch uh, from Memorial Day through Labor Day. I did a handful, I think, but I only flew to Tampa and San Jose. Those were the big arena ones.
hmm
The Rehoboth one over Memorial Day weekend was the first one that I think I'm pretty sure I talked about how I walked out and there's like just 2,000 people standing there, and I'm like, oh, the pandemic's done.
oh, the pandemic's done yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, right.
No, remember my brother and me? Oh my
Yeah.
god,
Oh man, 90s galore.
talk about a flashback Friday for when this is published. My
Right?
goodness. Hmm. So, um, yeah, I honestly was just running through those shows because the set lineups would change on us. Like we weren't doing the same production like every
Yeah.
time. I was also going back and forth between dancing with uh, this dancer, and I mean they both have worked together for many years. So it's but they still have differences in their style. So I try to adjust like to them so that
Yeah.
I feel like that we look similar stylistically speaking during the performance. But
Mhm.
um yeah, I am excited for this project that's coming up. It's just a matter of scheduling and getting motivated to get myself back in gear. Like just I mean, especially with the weather warming up, you know how this works.
Yeah.
You know
You
how
start
this
getting
works.
excited, start getting, the at least say, like you said, the weather changes, get more people that are going out, you start getting more in a better mood. So same thing here. I mean, I know my schedule usually every winter with playing shows, it kind of, takes a dip where I'm not usually playing too many shows. And then as the weather starts changing, it's into the spring, then I'm starting to get more opportunities.
Hmm.
So I kind of have my off times of the years where I'm not playing as much. And that's why it's been good that I've been not playing as many shows right now, that I can spend more time recording and getting a lot of these things done rather than trying to play shows and record and do a podcast at the same time. So
Right.
I have a little bit and then try to fill in, personal life things along the top of that too. So
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, works itself out in the same way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I go from August through well, this past season I went August through December, January on a couple of the competition routines that I was choreographing. Now that they're all done, um,
Hmm.
I am driving out recital choreography for June, and I'm ahead of the game more than I usually am, which is nice because I'm like, okay, once I get to May,
Right.
all I'm doing is I'm showing up and running the dance and cleaning it. Not that that's not work, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I think once I'm basically wrapping up, which yeah, a couple of the routines are either done or almost done. I just have to like move some things around and make adjustments.
Uh huh.
I think a couple of them are more than halfway done, so it's like just get them done, and then that way my mentality isn't on generating choreography, and then I can just focus on me.
Yeah.
Um, like myself getting back in shape and me dancing because I gotta say, when I get into these little ruts where I'm not dancing for some time, uh, I get in a funk and I miss it. So
Yeah, I get the
I
same
think
way.
I think that you're completely right in that now that you're off through the winter because you play a lot of shows where you're like outdoors and stuff. So,
Yeah,
but not even just that, like business in general for that industry, people don't go out as much in that time. One, it's cold, but two, you're following the holiday season, so people are trying to like
yeah,
stay in, recuperate financially, uh, save up for any summer vacations that they have, and then once you hit Memorial Day weekend, uh, well, I guess realistically speaking, it's like once you hit, I feel, I feel like once you get to like St. Patty's Day, and then you get through, um, like the 3 months that will lead up to the end of the school year for kids, like mid
yeah.
June, for those
Mhm.
kids, for the schools that get out mid June, because some places get out earlier if they start in
Earlier, yeah.
August, which
Mhm.
is awkward to us because we always went back after Labor Day.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like in those spring months, businesses are like trying to ramp up because if you're not, excuse me, if you're not working at like a summer vacation resort, you're like, people left town for the weekend.
yeah,
um, but then I feel like after the summer ends and people are like, okay, well, I spent all of my uh, summer money, and they're like, I feel like getting through September, if you're older and have kids, it's just September is get your kid adjusted to the back to school schedule, right?
yeah.
And then
Mhm.
I feel like October you have Oktoberfest and Halloween to work off of. November you have people that come home for Thanksgiving, and in December obviously there's holiday parties everywhere. So like
Yeah.
it's funny that we're talking about how like we go through these phases. It applies to everything. Like
Mhm.
you spent so long just doing like cover gigs that now you're like, I want to recreate some of my old work 10 years after the fact. And I'm like, perfect timing because you're not playing nearly as many shows right now. You
Yeah,
know?
and it's funny how it's kinda matched up with, 10 years back from it, and some of them, I mean, have been sooner, than 10, but it's funny that this first single that I'm, revising, was written 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and, it's definitely you got to hear it, last week, and like you were saying, it's night and day difference, and
Jeez.
especially
Yeah.
just all around looking back on how it was produced, and now that was able to kind of take it and kind of refurbish it, give it a new polish and everything, it definitely sits into what my mindset is now versus what it was 10 years ago. And I'm looking forward to continuing to put more of this. So this is definitely going to be a good year of releases for me, and I'm looking forward to this coming release next month, and hopefully, I'll be able to get some out every maybe 8 to 10 weeks. I'm looking to get something new out there. So if you guys want to keep track with that, I will most likely have a pre-sale starting next week, but I've been thinking about putting that pre-sale link in the bottom of this description. So if you guys want to be watching, all the one set viewers, you guys can get an early start on getting the little pre-save link. Uh, and the descriptions will be all the information will be in the description for you guys. Usually what for music they usually do like pre-saves, and for like Spotify, but
Hmm.
there's this new website that was told off of TikTok, and a lot of musicians are using this website called Laylo. And
Hmm.
what it is you have the fans or supporters, whatever you want to call them, they either give a phone number, an email, or connect their Facebook messenger to it, and you will be notified on the day of the release that the release is out. You give them a special link to go listen to the song. So with pre-saves, usually if you're giving a pre-save on, say, Spotify, it'll usually tell you, okay, well, before you pre-save, you got to log into your Spotify account. Some people don't even know their Spotify account because they probably haven't logged in a couple months. So it's like a big hassle. And then sometimes if you have to do Facebook login, then you got to remember your Facebook password and all that. So this is kind of like a simpler way of uh, being able to just give a phone number, an email, or some type of Facebook Messenger, and you'll get a link on the day of the release. All you have to do is just click the link and go listen to it. So I'm giving this a shot rather than the traditional pre-save way to kind of see what my first couple days of conversions will be. So along with doing these singles, I'm trying different marketing tactics for each of these songs to kind of just see which ones work best, and then that'll kind of help. After these maybe two or three, if I see one works better, then I'll probably go and gravitate more towards the one that's actually giving me more traction in the next couple releases. So you know cause and effect, A B testing sounds fun. the
C-
the the loves of being an independent musician.
right? CB testing.
CB
uh,
testing. Absolutely right, 100%.
100%. Yeah.
Speaking of
Um,
100%, we are going to be having the honor to see Tom Segura this weekend.
yeah. Well,
I'm
and the 100% is a Burt thing, but I mean
Yeah,
they're almost one and the same. Not, but
not, but
uh,
yes, yes and
obviously
no.
best friends. It's like you and me. We're one and the same, but we have our variant,
Our differences.
our differences. Uh, dude, we are seeing Tom. You're taking me to see Tom. Yes.
Yeah, I got it for
Um,
your birthday.
my birthday,
Your birthday.
um,
But you've
which I
seen
want to
Tom
say.
before, though, so this is my first time seeing Tom live.
Just want to say cheers, man. Thank you so much. Love you. Again, everybody, this is one set. Anthony Irvin and Jim Green. Cheers, brother. What you got
Cheers.
there? Looks like the Angry Orchard.
I got an Angry Orchard, the crisp apple flavor. It's
Hmm.
going down pretty good tonight. What about you, my friend?
Well, I have my standard Sky vodka,
The
uh,
vodka?
the vodka mixed with a little Fanta orange soda. So much sugar. I know
Is it
every.
true?
I do, I do, I do. Oh man, Keenan and Kel, another flashback Friday. Even though they were
Right?
on SNICK, which was Saturday night Nickelodeon,
Yeah.
which was such a great marketing ploy, by the way. They had like TGIF Friday night like cable televisions
Yeah.
for like families, and then they had the Saturday night like Nickelodeon shows for
Snick at night. Yeah.
yeah for your kids that were at home, and oh my goodness, 90s
Yeah.
television in general. Nothing like it, man. These kids
Yeah.
will never know.
They don't make
I mean,
television like that anymore.
well, I mean, network television was like huge at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is like before cable internet, so you didn't have smartphones yet. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is
Which is
just
crazy to think, I mean, when you really think, we haven't been into the cell phone world for too long.
no.
So it's really still new technology. If you really want to put years behind it, it's still new technology. But
Oh
to
yeah,
think of the world before cell phones is still like, what did we do? Like, no,
it's
you actually lived.
you had to get an atlas to figure out how to go places.
Yeah, right. You had to get a compass,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you had to go to MapQuest and get lost going to Oxford.
yeah. I mean, that was when. Uh, but that's like MapQuest wasn't a thing until after the internet started really like
Yeah.
blooming, right?
I still remember the first time logging on to AOL and the whole dial-up system and being like, "Hey,
Hmm.
you can only be online for about 5 minutes because I'm waiting for a phone call."
Yep, yep. I think
You
about it
know?
all the time. I talk about it with my students because I'm like, this is how much of a dinosaur that I am.
Yeah, and especially since you teach those kind of kids, like hearing those type of stories coming from us, like yeah, they're like, "What world did you grow up in? Like, didn't you have an app for that or something?" Like, no, we actually had to get off the phone in like 10 minutes or we'd be beat.
Yeah. We grew up in a time where,
Good
like,
times.
in a time where you'd have a high-speed VCR tape rewinder. you'd have like the little
Yeah,
you'd have the little sleeve that if you didn't want to push the rewind button on your VCR and wait 10 minutes or go take a dump while you're waiting for it to
yeah.
rewind, you
Yeah,
could.
you didn't just pop the video case back in and it started from the beginning. You had to rewind that sucker. And
Yeah.
then, like you said, wait about 5, 10 minutes, watch that thing rewind. Like, okay, this side's getting bigger, that side's getting smaller. And then you realize you were going forward the whole time, and then you
Yeah.
break the whole thing.
With a hammer
Yeah, right. With a hammer.
because you're over it. You ain't got the time for this. Yeah, we had like a high speed rewind
Yeah,
fast forward thing that like you could pop the VCR tape,
yeah.
VHS cassette
Casape. What's that?
cassette. I made a new contraction. It's cassette tape, but
It-
one word. Cassette.
Cassette. A cassette. Hashtag.
Yeah. Um, I haven't thought about that high speed uh, VHS like rewind fast forward thing in a long time.
Yeah, that's
That
crazy.
that just popped into my head because when I think of VHS tapes, I think about the old Disney cassette tapes that were these huge marshmallow foam things.
Uh, yeah.
Kids will never
Yeah.
know, right?
No. No,
Mm-mm.
they don't know how easy it is to just access stuff these days.
Yeah,
You have everything in the palm of your hand these days where like I said, like we didn't have music readily available. We had to go to the store and buy the album, which we didn't listen to at first. We went and bought the album, got home, and then we realized the music sucked.
I was just gonna say, you get home and then you realize, oh yeah, this CD's actually trash. I waited how long for this?
I
Yeah,
paid $10 for this crap. Then you go back down to the record store and you go and do it again and have the same thing happen again
all the time, all the time.
until it, and
It's
then until they started getting, you can actually go to the record store, listen to it, then decide, this is ain't this is all right. Then you can not waste your money.
dang. I remember when MP3 players first started becoming a thing, right?
Yeah,
Um, which they're not really a thing anymore. Let's be serious.
no, yeah,
Everyone's just got the music all on their phones because it can accommodate everything.
of
Um,
course.
especially if you're like me, where I, either downloaded or sorry guys, I ripped music from YouTube.
Cause
Sue me, because
or
oh,
or
I,
LimeWire.
I was just about to like I just had Napster in my head, and
Napster was one too. Yeah.
Napster was the big one first, right?
How many viruses that you downloaded thinking that it was a song like, up, we just screwed up your computer.
Yeah,
So
between yeah between Napster and because LimeWire and FrostWire, those were like the four that I used.
yeah.
Um, but and we were, dude, we were using that with dial-up internet. How long did it take to download a song?
Oh my god, it was the worst. And I
Sometimes it
remember
sometimes it took 45 minutes and the quality was trash. Like
yes.
these
Yeah.
kids don't know.
Again, like you said, it's the same thing with what I was just saying. Like you would download it, you didn't get a preview of the download. You would read the description of what you were about to download, and you would, and then here's the thing, sometimes it wouldn't even be what you thought. You thought you'd be downloading Dane Cook's first comedy special, and it was something totally different, like a goat licking a phone pole or something. I remember,
Oh
and that
my
was like the
god.
first one of the first things that I downloaded off of Kazaa was Dane Cook's "Harmful If Swallowed,"
Mm,
and
mm.
that was, and that was right when he wasn't too big yet, but I think he got really big off of people downloading the stuff off of Kazaa
Well,
or Napster, Livewire, anything, and that's where he really blew up.
you um, actually introduced me to Dane Cook.
Yes,
With I think that CD, that compact, you had that CD, and you
yeah,
were showing it to me, like it was right after you had gotten your license, and like you were driving, we were driving somewhere, and you showed it to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is
yeah,
hilarious. um I think he really, like, I think he really blew up. What was it, the Sufi? Because he had
yeah,
it was a circular stage, and
yeah.
he's talking about his dad opening his robe and saying, "This will all be yours one day."
This will all be yours one day. Like, but he tried to close it, but the damage was done. I think, yeah, that was like the height of his
uh, his
like
career, yeah,
his
God,
prime. His prime was that, I think, that special because it was
he.
like, was it Madison Square Garden that he did that?
I think that it was, yeah.
So that was like a big thing for uh comedians, and still to this day, to you know sell out Madison Square Garden is a big thing for, I think, for any type of entertainer. To sell out Madison Square Garden is a big deal for a lot of people. But um yeah, that special was definitely the height of his prime.
Okay,
And
so it was, I think, Vicious Circle is,
Vicious Circle, yes.
because the stage was circular, and it had the "This is two fingers,
Yeah,
everyone."
the
It had the Sufi logo on it.
yeah,
The Yeah,
uh, there you go. Yeah.
yeah. I just googled that and found it on Wiki. The Wiki.
The wiki.
Dude, um, let's talk about some of our favorite comedians. I know we were going to talk about some of my uh, previous memorable birthday moments, with my birthday coming up Sunday. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but I was going to do part one of that this episode and part two next week. But
Okay.
we can just pile that all into one, especially I can say, and talk about our show coming up Saturday, tomorrow night. Once this is
Yeah, once
launched,
this is up, yeah,
yeah,
once this is actually out, it'll be tomorrow night.
dude,
But
I'm
yeah,
stoked. I am
I mean,
so stoked.
if anybody's watching this and they're going to see Tom Segura, tell us in the comments.
Yeah, or
That'll be cool.
email us at the number one setpod@gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
Um,
So our favorite comedians, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in numerical order. We don't have
no,
to have like a set number of how many. We can just go off of a couple names. I mean, I got it. We both jotted down a couple names before we started the podcast.
yeah,
But in honor of your birthday week, my friend, do you want to go first?
sure. I mean, we can go back and forth. I have a
Yeah.
list of I have a kind I think a slightly longer list than you, but I think once I talk about some of these, excuse me, sorry, my bad, everybody. Um, yeah, because I mentioned a few of these to you, but then I didn't mention a few of these because I wanted to see your reaction on here. Um,
Uh-huh.
Obviously, first one that comes to mind is Tom Segura, because we are going to see him. He has been uh, my favorite in recent memory, just because. Um, and I think it's interesting because he, um, The first time I was introduced to him, he reminded me of a person that I really didn't like. um, so I immediately made that connection and was like, yeah, I don't think I like this guy. And then I watched his, and this is, we're going back at least 5 years ago. Um,
Uh-huh.
so we're going back to when like his stand-ups were like I can appreciate them now because I've seen his future works and love
Yeah.
them. Um, I saw his second, not his second special, but the second special that I saw of his that's still on Netflix, I think. Um, I was like, oh my God, this guy's funny. And then I actually went and saw him at the Chocadero in Philly. And
Uh-huh.
one of the reasons why I didn't appreciate him at first, and he's gotten, I've, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but he was very just stoic and dry early on.
Mm.
And that kind of stoic and dry humor, like I'd rather someone have a lot more energy because I'm a performer.
A performer. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm a
Um, I'm a when I went and saw him live, and it could have very well been like for his Netflix specials that he knew it was being recorded, so he may have had a little bit of stage fright, nervousness, anxiety, that and the other.
Uh-huh.
But when I saw him in Philly, I was like, oh my God, he looked so much more laid back and comfortable.
Mm.
The next special that I saw him do, I was like, okay, he figured it out. And we the last pod the first well the first podcast that you and I were listening to was the LTG wrestling one.
Yes.
Um and they literally I want to say they announced on their 300th episode that it was their last one, and we were like, what are we going to
Which
do?
did not expect that
Did
coming.
not expect that at all. But happy for those guys. Doug is still
Yes.
holding down the LTG for John. Alba is doing uh, big things with the ads free uh, stuff now.
He's doing a podcast with Matt Hardy.
Yeah, I know.
Like
he's
Matt
he,
Hardy, jeez.
he's doing something right. Yeah,
He's doing big things.
yeah. Good
Got
for
a
him.
lot of love and support for that dude. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially when we met him at WrestleMania, and he was just such a
Yeah.
down to earth, cool guy.
Oh
Like
yeah. Awesome.
that was just fantastic. So yeah, I mean, the after that ended, and we were like, what are we gonna do? We found Two Bears, One Cave.
Yeah.
Which I knew it was a thing. Like I had seen because one of my buddies in Point Blank showed me the Tom Segura dance that trolled Bert, and um, once you and I started listening um, to the episodes, and then we were like 30 episodes in on Spotify, and you're like, dude, I just found their YouTube page, and all of their podcasts are uploaded with video to YouTube. And I was like, that's what we're doing from now on,
Yeah.
unless if I'm driving and I have to
Yeah.
listen audibly.
That was a
That
gem of a find.
yeah, yeah. So I think just watch it like, and I've watched some of the Your Mom's House episodes. I mean, they were like 600
They
episodes
were
in.
they were
By the
really big into it, yeah.
I was trying to finish Two Bears first before I got into that because I'm weird like that. Not weird because some people will agree. Um, Even with TV shows on whatever Netflix, Hulu, HBO
Yeah.
Max, Amazon Prime, wherever you catch your findings, Disney Plus.
And the plus.
I When I start something, I have to finish it before I move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I because
When it comes to
my
TV shows, I'm the same way. Yeah.
my sister Kim tells me all the time, like, oh yeah, we'll start a show and then we'll start something else and we'll fall out of that one. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. If I'm
No.
gonna spend time starting something, I don't want to have to go back and rewatch it because I forgot what happened. Which is why I don't like to watch shows that are ongoing, because I'm like, if I'm starting something, I want to catch the entire story until the end.
Yeah, the last one that I've done that I never usually do, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of smack for this anyway, but watching The Wire. My brother tried to get me to watch The Wire. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, it's
I,
fine. It's to each their
and
own. I
I
mean,
mean, and I guess I wasn't really fully into it, but I guess it took a little bit to get into it, but it just wasn't grabbing me, and it seemed like something that I would be into, but it
mhm.
just wasn't keeping me interested. So I just fell off of it, and but uh like Ozark, I watched that, and after the first episode, I was hooked, and I
Yeah.
couldn't stop watching it.
Did
So
did did you watch any of the new season yet or no?
I haven't yet, and I know, and just like you're saying, I know once I start it, I'm not gonna be able to stop it until I get done that series, because I know it's gonna be a 2-part series. So I think it's like 8 to 10 episodes. So I know if I start watching it, that's gonna be my to go thing until I get done.
Yeah. Well,
And there's so many things that I'm doing in the background with the release and everything right now, and I know that if I'm watching episodes, I know I'm not going to want to be able to stop watching it. So I'm gonna
it's
not
gonna
that I'm gonna be wasting my time, but I'm gonna want to continue to watch it, and that's all time that I can be getting graphics and all this other stuff done, ready for the release and everything. Because I got pre-saves that I'm gonna be starting next week, so I'm trying to get all the graphics done with all that and everything. So lot of things happen behind the scenes in the music world for me,
yeah.
yeah, it's just been, yeah, once I get invested into something, I can't stop it,
Right. Right.
until I get done with that certain thing.
Well, it's compartmentalizing, right? Because like
Right.
our mental capacity for being able to approach life is like, right now you're focused on building your release of your new well, you're going to do singles like drops, and then you're going to release the entire
Yeah.
album when you're ready. No
Yeah.
rush.
Mhm.
But again, if you get into a show, you're going to get distracted, and then that's just going to delay everything on your end. I just started uh, Yellowstone within the last
I
week or
keep hearing
so.
good things about that too,
It's
Yellowstone.
it's really good. I'm trying not to watch it without Cheyenne, but she's also not making moves to put it on. I can tell that she's not as invested in it,
Yeah.
um, which is fine. I mean, I just have to get to a point where I'm like, do you want to watch this together, or like, do you want me to just run with it? But it's also been recent enough that I haven't forgotten anything yet. Whereas with Ozark, I watched I think I binged seasons 1 through 3. Like I didn't watch
Mhm.
seasons 1 and 2 when they were first out, so I caught all of the previous 3 seasons, and then
Yeah.
the season 4 release got delayed because of COVID. So I did catch a few of the new episodes of that, and they're making references, and I'm like, I forget all this stuff because it was like so
Yeah.
long ago that I watched this, and that's why I don't like to watch stuff that's ongoing, because I'm like, you're gonna reference things from earlier seasons, and
Yeah.
it's gone from my head. Like, like and so
Exactly.
even
Yeah.
with this final season being broken up into 2 parts, I didn't have another show that I was watching, so I was like, I want to see how good this is, like, because I have a feeling it's going to be really good. And
Yeah.
so far, it's pretty interesting, and I'm only a few episodes in. But
Awesome.
at the same time, I'm like, if I finish this, and the second half of season 4 for some reason gets delayed, and they're referencing things back to the first part of season 4, it's like just get it all done at once, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've been good at reviewing the past seasons in the first,
They
couple
do the
minutes of the
they
beginning of the season,
Yeah, they
which
do the
usually what I
recaps.
like, because it kind of gives you a good, and they don't like do like a 1 minute back, they kind of do a couple minutes of a preview of what happened in the last season to kind of catch you back up. So that at least helps me because I don't want to have to go back and watch 10 episodes again. So
Yeah,
I
I
at
mean,
least go back, and unless there's something that's specific that they're talking about, I'm like, wait, what were they talking about again? Then you might have to go back. But they usually do pretty good with doing a good recap of the previous season to get you up to speed for the current season.
yeah, I mean, and they do that for going into season four, but I feel like there were like I feel like they do a good job um catching you up on the major highlights, but they'll
Okay.
make little references along the way that you're like, wait, what? And then it's so
Yeah.
confusing. That's why I'm like, hmm. At least with Game of Thrones, like I didn't get into that until they had 6 seasons in.
Yeah.
So, and season 7 and 8 were shortened. So there weren't a lot of things there. Once season 7 and well, then season 8 was like a year and almost 2 years after the fact. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, when you watched, were
I think I came in at 7 because I had to rewatch up to 6 or 7 because
oh,
I think I think I probably came in the middle of 7
right,
because I think I was watching while you guys were watching 7, and I
yeah,
was, watching episodes, because I didn't wanna watch anything current if I was
right,
still keeping up with what was going on, and then, uh, within that year and a half, almost 2 years in between 7 and 8, I was able to rewatch it and kinda focus a little bit more on it, so
yeah, yeah. Because I think you were flying through the first
I
time. It's
flew
just like,
through it so fast because I was just
yeah,
more into, like, the action of it, and the
yeah.
dialogue, it flew like, I got a decent amount of the dialogue, but, the second time around, I paid a little bit more attention of, the back stories and a little bit more in detail to what they were saying instead of being like, "Oh, they're just talking and this," but, like,
Well,
actually going back and like, "Oh, what were they saying?" And then, because you guys were saying like, "Oh, did you get what the guy was saying?" Because when the first time I was watching, and we'll get into our next comedian in a minute. I know we're going too much into a tangent, but, the one thing, an example, what I was doing is I didn't understand when, uh when Jamie was talking to lady what was her name that he poisoned who killed, well, it's cat's out
I
of the bag. People are going to be spoiled if you haven't seen it by now. Spoiler alerts anyway.
yeah.
The lady that killed Joffrey, I
It's
didn't
it's
catch all that dialogue. I was
it's
just watching it, and because then we're discussing it after, and one of our friends was like, "So did you catch what happened in the end of that episode?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, she got poisoned." And he's like, "But what did she say?" I'm like,
yeah,
"I don't know." She's like, "Dude, go back and watch it." Like, that's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I was not tuned into it as good as I should have been. And
So
rewatching it again, I'm like, "Oh, she killed him." Like,
yeah. So Lady Onella is her
oh
name.
no, I knew it started with O, but I didn't know how to phonetically say it. I was gonna be like Othello,
Yeah,
like
it was Shaquille O'Neal's mom.
freaking Shakespeare over here. Othello.
Othello.
But yeah, to go into our comedians again, I guess.
Mhm.
For me, I mean, you were saying Tom Segura. For me, I gotta say, and I mean, I guess the number one that first comes into my mind is Richard Pryor. For me, growing up, my dad was a big Richard Pryor fan, and I guess for being a small kid, watching Richard Pryor wasn't probably the best person to be watching. But when you're young, your parents let you watch certain things, and they're like, "Hey, you can watch it in the house, but make sure you don't repeat any of this to in school, or don't repeat any of this to your friends, or don't do this." Blah 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 blah. So we kind of knew, okay, this is just a family thing that we watched because my my mom always like was saying like if these teachers knew what the hell you were watching.
Mhm.
Because we would
Oh,
watch Sopranos when we were kids too, and it had a whole bunch of all the things over there too, and
mhm.
so we watched a whole bunch of stuff. But but yeah, Richard Pryor, especially his uh the big stand-up special that took him by storm, which was the Richard Pryor in concert in 1979.
Mm,
That is definitely one of the ones that he's definitely known for. And I can go into a lot of like the impacts on how that special was, but if you haven't listened, if you don't know who Richard Pryor is, go and look him up on YouTube. He's definitely the if not the goat, one of the goats of comedy. It's unfortunate that he's no longer with us. So RIP to Richard Pryor. But there's been a lot of guys that have bounced off of Richard. Eddie Murphy was a big Richard Pryor person. He worked alongside Richard Pryor a lot. Paul Mooney, who wrote for Richard Pryor, and
mm.
RIP to Paul Mooney. Uh, and I mean, I guess another one that I'll just briefly go into another one is Chris Rock. Chris Rock was definitely a big comedian that me, my parents, my brother used to watch a lot of times. Bigger and Blacker. When he came out with that special, oh my god, it was just everything like and how we talk about like our podcast. We like to be talking about what's in time with what's going on in the now, like what he was talking about with the Columbine shootings, and talking about race and this and all that. It's like everything that was happening in the world at that time, but he was just making everybody laugh from it. Like he was finding ways of taking controversial topics and just making you forget that there's like this way and that way about it, but you know he just made you laugh. And it was just to the point where I always liked comedians that were taking real life situations and can make them into something funny. I always
Mhm.
found that interesting, instead of just comedians talking about hypothetical situations, but when they can talk about real life situations and make that funny, that is awesome to me.
Well, it's establishing a connection with your audience because your audience is living in the same flipping world, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, oh my goodness, um I think if I was 5 years older, that I would have watched Chris Rock religiously. My parents were a little bit more uptight on things that I could watch at a younger age.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Goodwill Hunting had come out, and I wanted to watch it, and there were too many f bombs being dropped, and they were like, "All right, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta
You
go."
gotta go.
um, and I think along with that, I really wanted to watch Dangerous Minds. Um,
Mm.
Michelle Pfeiffer was in that, but that was specifically because I loved the song that Coolio did.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, Gangsta's Paradise. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
watching that, and that was for the same reason, because me and my brother knew we liked Gangsta's Paradise, but it had well, not that it didn't have anything to do with the movie, but it was just like the main feature of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really good movie. But yeah, it was definitely something like, oh, should you be watching it at that age? But
Yeah, my parents were a little bit tighter on what I could and couldn't see
mhm.
earlier on, and then they lightened up a lot once I was like, I'd say if I wasn't a freshman in high school, I was definitely like 16, and they were like, he's going to be able to see R-rated movies next year anyway, so whatever. Um,
Mhm.
so just moving along on my list here, I mean, the next one I have is Bert Kreischer because
Uh,
um, I mean, he once we started watching Two Bears One Cave was Tom's co-host, so I got to meet him through that, and I was like, you know, these guys are hilarious together, but I want to see Bert on stage alone. And I knew he was known for going up there topless and stuff like that.
uh-huh.
But I watched, and I think he talked about on one of the episodes that, um, and I didn't talk about like why I liked Tom. I just felt like his performance quality improved. Um, Being on stage, I feel I felt like there was more dynamic behind how he presented things. Like
Hmm.
his voices changed up a lot more, and he found moments when to be quick, and he found moments when to like just take the pause because
Uh,
that's important, right? But he like never laughed, which is, they say it's an important quality if you're a comedian and you're supposed to present your dialogue and not laugh about it. And Bert was saying, "Oh, people say I'm not that funny because I laugh at myself on stage," and I'm like, I actually don't agree with that because if your laugh is contagious,
yeah.
it's going to make me laugh too, right?
Uh,
Um, I think with Bert, it's he's an acquired taste. Um, like
that's a good way to put it.
yeah, at first it's like okay, kind of a lot, right?
Right.
But the more you like, the more that I tuned into him and Tom and watched their dynamic, and it was funny because when you and I first started watching, I wanted to be like, I'm more like Tom, and Anthony's more like Bert because Anthony will laugh faster than I will. And then
Yes.
as I got through like more episodes, I was like, just based on how Bert is, I'm like, I'm kind of a little bit more of a Bert. And
We
my
both have a little bit of Tom and Bert in us. It's just
yeah,
more. It depends on the day.
yeah, just an inch or two. Just kidding. All right,
Yeah.
where are we at here? 111.
So I did Richard Pryor and Chris Rock.
Uh-huh.
You can't talk about comedy and not mention Jim Carrey.
Oh God. I mean, here's the thing: is I've never known of him ever doing stand up.
He
So
did
I,
stand up in the very beginning and before he really got into movies. So he I guess he started out as a stand-up comic and then became the actor. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I've watched one or a few of his early stand-up specials, and he's hilarious.
mhm,
It just with because he was an early impressionist, he was able to do impressions, and then
yeah,
just his goofy self that he just portrayed himself as. It was just one of those crazy goofy guys. And, again, me, I have an easy sense of humor. So I latched onto that. Like, if you can make me laugh easily, then, you
you
got me
got
hook,
me.
line, and sinker. But,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
just, you know, from being a stand up comic and then obviously all the, movies that he's done from Dumb and Dumber to Ace Ventura to Liar Liar. Again, I can go on for another tangent about my love for Jim Carrey. He's been definitely one of my favorite comedy actors.
Yeah.
But as a stand-up comic, I mean, he doesn't necessarily do a lot of stand-up comedy anymore, but I think it must have just been a short-lived affair for that. But
Mhm.
Jim Carrey will definitely be a favorite of mine as a comic.
Yeah.
But a comic for stand-up, uh who I saw, another person that I saw in person is Brian Regan.
Okay.
So I saw him at the Kimball Center in Philly a few years back, and I've watched all his specials, and again he's he's not an edgy comedian, so he's definitely a different type of comedian than what I'm used to. Because I don't mind comedians that are edgy or use a lot of profanity or you're very raunchy. I have a bunch of different ranges,
Mhm.
but he's definitely more on the cleaner side.
Okay.
But he can still make you laugh, and that's impressive to me. That you and it makes you wonder, like, you don't always have to be the guy, flipping profanity all the time. You don't it's the same thing we were talking about with Jim Gaffigan. He doesn't use a lot of profanity in his comedy, but he is hilarious to me.
Mhm.
So it definitely shows that you don't have to be the comedian that drops the F bomb or is like cursing up there every 5 seconds. I mean, if you're able to whale an audience and, in their terms, if you're able to kill or murder without being able to, use profanity, that's another type of technique that, certain comics may not be able to portray. They may not be able to, get their jokes over without using profanity, where others don't necessarily need it. You don't need to be raunchy to be funny. So,
Yeah, if you can win people over without dark or uh, dirty comedy, you have a gift because a lot of people, um, I mean, a lot of people like that's what they gravitate towards. Like that's what like shakes them because it's like
yeah,
it's touchy, right? Um,
right.
you're pushing the envelope there. I mean, a lot of a lot of what's on my list is like it's a variety for sure. I mean, Dane Cook laughs at himself and totally okay with it.
Uh
Um,
huh.
Chris D'Elia laughs at himself. Do you know Chris D'Elia?
If I've seen a picture,
Yeah,
probably I'm gonna look
I'll
that up
send
real
you.
quick.
I'll send you. He's been on your mom's house a couple of times, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's wild.
Yes.
He's
Yeah,
he's
I've
wild.
yeah, he has a couple good moments that from what I remember, like he's just like that.
He,
He'll have like a quick punchline and it
yeah,
just comes out of nowhere. Like
yeah.
so
Well, he to me has a lot of performance quality behind him because he has a lot of dynamic in how he pushes
yeah.
his bits, right? Um, oh my god, I kept like writing, so I'm gonna just start running through some of these. I mean, do you know Aziz Ansari, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hilarious. Some people can't stand him. I'm like, everybody's not for everybody, right? Like
Yeah.
to each their
And
own.
again, it's comedy. I mean, everybody has their taste for comedy. Some
Yeah,
people, like I said, some people are not going to like just like music and dance. Some people are not going to like every musician. Some people are not going to like every dancer's taste. And
right,
same thing with comedy. Some people have their taste in comedy, and not everybody's going to like every comedian.
right. Um, I have to throw Cat Williams out there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done anything recently, but I remember you sending me some of his clips, and I'm just rolling. Um,
Yeah.
got,
His big one was the Pimp Chronicles,
mm,
where he's wearing the green jacket. That was, I think that took him off, and that whole thing is just like gold.
yeah.
It's just so funny.
um, I mean, I have Godfrey, which was on with Tom as a guest on Two
Uh-huh.
Bears One Cave when Bert was in rehab, which he totally was out shooting a movie. Um, uh, Bill Burr, obviously.
Bill Burr is
What
another one.
you sent me, you got me into him. I didn't realize he did a podcast, and apparently he's been doing it for some time because he's got a long library too. um,
Yeah.
Got to mention the 85 South guys.
Yes.
I don't know if they're stand-up comedians, um, but they're obviously a comedy act, right? Um,
Yeah.
so gotta acknowledge them because once DC,
DC Young Fly. Oh my god.
his laugh is just so contagious. I can't with it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I would really love to see those guys live. Like,
yeah,
that would be a fun, hilarious show to go to.
yeah, no doubt.
Because I mean, not unfortunately. I mean, hey, they gotta do this. I mean, they're gonna have subscribers, but they used to put up their shows on YouTube, but now they have a subscription service, so they put all their shows on their subscription service. So you have to pay for all their live shows. So that's money because I mean, they got all the people that were the millions of views from YouTube. So
Oh yeah,
they knew, okay, if you really want to be watching the rest of ours, you're going to pay X amount of money per month to see extra content and the rest of our shows.
yeah.
So
Can you
that's money right there for them.
can you imagine $5 a month extrapolated over 1 million people? It's $5 million, right? Huh.
That's insane.
That's why the online subscription based payment thing is a thing. If you make it cheap, but
Yeah,
you can literally reach the world
right.
through this platform. No, um, how many more you got on your list? Because I got a few.
I got two that I have written down. One is the Kings of Comedy.
Okay,
That whole special with Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, um, DL Hughley, and Cedric the Entertainer. I crack up every time because each of those guys have their own perspectives. I mean,
right.
they talk a lot about the same stuff, but they have their own ways of comedy. And Bernie Mac itself, we can talk about Bernie Mac all day, every day. I
Yeah,
mean, RIP to Bernie Mac.
absolutely. Yeah,
Still can't believe he's not with us.
yeah. He went
Uh,
way too soon for sure.
so I would have loved to see. He still probably would have been doing comedy today if
I
obviously.
bet.
But yeah, definitely a good soul that we lost with Bernie Mac. But the stuff that I watch with him, he was hilarious. And if you've never watched that special before, to anybody who's first listening or been continuously listening, go check out the Kings of Comedy. If you're into that type of comedy. But yeah, so it definitely not that. I mean, I know coming from an interracial relationship, with my parents. I mean, not that I can fully relate to uh the black community lifestyle, but I can, I've grown up to the point where I know what they're talking about in certain aspects. So some of those
Sure.
things can be funny. Uh but that whole special is amazing, and even their own specials outside of that are amazing. I've been watching Cedric the Entertainer and Steve Harvey do a lot of their stuff. I mean, Cedric the Entertainer and DL Hughley, they still do their comedy every once in a while. Steve Harvey, he's doing a lot of his TV stuff, so he doesn't do much stand-up comedy. Um, but yeah, I think Cedric just put out a special within the last 2-3 years that was killing. I think DL probably within the last 5 he put out something. So yeah, they're both really funny. And then my last one that I have is the Blue Collar Comedy Tour,
Yeah, I have that on my
and
list
I
too.
think we were
We
both
were
talking about
we were
that,
talking about that. Oh man,
especially Ron White. Ron White
yeah.
is so funny.
What a god on our green earth. Seriously. Um. Oh my god.
And I don't think so, Scooter.
Scooter. Scooter.
And
Oh
so when
my.
he talks about his thing about being arrested uh
Uh-huh.
out on the street, or he's like, well, you're arresting me, I was drunk in the bar. You threw me out into public.
Yeah, the emphasis on the C.
Which is totally legal, so
Yeah.
go arrest them.
Yeah. It's brilliant. So
Oh
good.
man.
Um I mean I gotta acknowledge at least one female stand up because we haven't yet. Whitney Cummings.
Yeah, she's funny. I gotta think of somebody else, another female comic that I can't think of
Wait,
one, but
isn't there one on the Blue Collar tour? I don't remember her name, but I thought that they had a female on that. No?
not that I know of.
Collar. Comedy.
I know there
Let
was
me see.
there was a couple female comics that I vaguely, watched when I was, doing a lot of the, you know, comedy tour videos that I would watch, but Whitney Cummings does come to mind
Yeah.
when, thinking of female comics.
I mean, I have it's great because I like my list is it's pretty diverse. It's good. Um, Let me see. Female comedians: Amy Schumer, Ali Wong, Sarah Silverman. Um, I don't know who that is, but that doesn't look like a chick. Um, Joan Rivers, Wanda
Eh,
Sykes. Eh, that's
yeah,
that's the thing, and I'm not trying to be like against women doing stand up comedy. I don't know many that like were incredibly like well renowned for it.
yeah.
And
Well,
I don't know. Let me
well,
see.
the one uh, that we've definitely can really talk about that we didn't mention, who was also on the Two Bears One Cave, was Anthony Jeselnik.
He's the last one on
He
my list. He's the last one on my list. Yep.
I was on Spotify,
Okay.
just
Real quick. Um, Chelsea Handler. That's a good name to mention because I used to watch her like on the late night uh stuff. I thought she was hilarious. They have Roseanne Barr on here, and I mean
eh,
she's an icon in her own right, but not someone that I'm running out of my way to watch. Kathy Griffin, uh, Aubrey Plaza. Okay, that's fine. I mean you're basically like this list is basically like Ellen DeGeneres. You're talking about people that are in comedy like movies
yeah.
or on shows like Amy Poehler was on Parks and Recreation. Um,
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple here, and there's two that come to mind that just came out. Nikki Glassler. I'm probably saying her name wrong, but she has a couple. You know, I never seen her specials, but I've seen some clips of her on like the Comedy Central roasts,
yeah.
and she was just killing on those.
Okay.
And I do got to give an honorable mention to Tiffany Haddish. She's pretty funny too.
Yeah. Well, and you have Tina Fey on here. Shout out because she's from Philadelphia, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, and
Okay.
speaking of affiliate, I didn't know, going into more Whitney Cummings, I didn't know she went to Temple in Philly.
That's wild. Yeah.
She went to Temple for a little bit. So that's, cool to
Yeah.
kind of have a little bit of Philly roots in her for
Says
Whitney Cummings.
yeah. Tina Fey, Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. It's
Yeah.
pretty, pretty
Who would have
cool.
known? I knew she was from the area. I didn't know how close though. That's like mega close. That's right in
And
the backyard of everybody.
you're 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 talking Delco country right here.
Exactly.
All right, I got two more, and then we got to get out of
What are
here.
your what are your last two, buddy?
All right, one is a favorite of ours, Mr. Zach Galifianakis, because of the Purple
There you
Onion,
go. Yes.
and then we got to wrap this up with an absolute legend. Also, rest in peace, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, you can't talk comedy without Robin Williams as well, you know.
nah, nah. I mean, who do we miss? What's Oh my god! Oh my
Oh my
god!
god.
No, what's his name? Gallagher. Like he was huge
Yeah.
back in the day. I just never got into him, and
I never really got into him either, but I knew like his concept, but he never really appealed to me. Be like, oh yeah, I gotta go watch him. But yeah,
yeah, he was just. I think he was just before our time, honestly. Um, yeah, I mean Robin Williams. His stand up stuff that I've seen um, is fairly raunchy, which is fine. It's each their own. But like Cheyenne had never seen Mrs. Doubtfire, so we watched that a couple weeks ago, and she was dying. She was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Yeah, he He was an absolute effing legend.
Uh-huh.
What a legend.
And dude, we missed one that should have been way up on our list. That well, there's two, but I'm going to name one right now.
Dude,
Dave Chappelle.
Oh
Dave
god.
Chappelle. Why did we
Okay.
miss him?
Because I'm over here just off the top of my head, just like jotting down things, and there's just so money.
Yeah.
Well, there is so money in what they do.
So money.
But there's so many because you and I are just fans of laughing because
Yeah.
it's just something that makes us feel better about. And and Dave talks about this where it's like, he sees people kicking their head back in the audience and he knows I'm doing my job because I'm distracting them from their everyday CB lives, right?
Yeah. And just even if you didn't know him from his comedy specials, you knew him from obviously the Dave Chappelle show.
Right.
So, and that was just stand up sketch comedy in general. So he had, that was part of an era that, was very controversial obviously with the show, but
Mhm.
he had a lot of freedom in the first little bits of it. But even his specials were just as funny, and the specials that he came out with now, regards to how you feel about them. But he got supposedly now he has another deal
Hmm.
with Netflix, so he's gonna be coming out with more. And hey, for me, I'm surprised. I can't wait for him.
I mean,
And I guess the last one we guess we can really mention is Louis C.K.
yeah, that's fair.
He is really funny. Seems like he's starting to get back out into the comedy world.
Good
So
for him. Good for him
yeah,
because he got canceled for a stupid reason, in my opinion. But as far as Dave Chappelle goes, Sticks and Stones was what made me a mega Dave fan because I wasn't into the Chappelle show growing up. Um, I also wasn't heavily into comedy things as like I guess when we were like middle school, high school age. I got more
yeah,
into comedy as an adult after I graduated.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we touched on a lot of good, and I just have this list over here with our notes for one
Uh
set.
huh.
So as soon as I see things, I'll be like, I can't believe we didn't talk about them. Maybe we can bring them up next week. And anything else that we want to talk about before we wrap up today? I know we went once again a little bit longer than we wanted to. Uh,
Yeah,
Not complaining, not complaining. It is 1:12 in the morning. Uh, 1:12.
it's always into the wee hours of the morning.
That's fine.
But it's awesome to get this content out for you guys, and we have a lot of special things coming in the next couple episodes that we think you guys are going to be really excited about. And we're making this as the birthday special for Jim, since it is his birthday this week. uh and we're going to be seeing Tom on Saturday. We'll probably do a little small review on the show next week. Maybe if we get a little more time, we'll if we missed any comedians that we wanted to shine light on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I think in these next couple episodes, we'll probably be getting more back into some music and dance. So there's a lot more content coming your way, guys. And we thank you guys for continuing to support us and come back week after week, chatting and listening. Make sure you guys, if you're listening for the first time, make sure you guys are following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, at the handle of the number one set pod. And you guys can email us at onesetpod@gmail.com. You guys can send us information, your feedback. If you guys have any certain topics you'd like for us to hit on, if you have any questions for us, we would definitely love to answer them on air for you guys. Anything you guys can think of, feel free to hit us up on social media or through email. And you know what else? Do we have anything else going on? Or I know we got to get out of here.
Yeah. No, I think that's the podcast, man. Did you have any more for a final cheers, or are you all dried up on your end?
I am all all finished here, but I
Okay.
did
Well,
say that I wanted to mention the pre-save link. So I think I'm going to give our one set uh supporters, fans, whatever we want to, you know, our supportive people, community that we've been gaining over these last couple weeks. I'm going to give you guys a chance to be having the first dibs on getting your hands on being notified about my single that's going to come out next month on March 18th. It's going to be my song called Dreamers Are Believers. So if you click the link that is in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, click the link, and all you have to do is add your phone number, email, or uh, just it's a Facebook Messenger. So you might have to just log into your Facebook, and you will be instantly notified on the day of the release, which is March 18th. You'll be sent a link to the song and you'll be able to listen to it that day. So I would love for you guys to take part in it. And so if you haven't yet, make sure you guys click that link. And while you're doing that, make sure you head over to head over to our social medias, give us a follow, and like anything, we will be seeing you guys on the next episode. And we hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And we will see you all next week with another episode.
dude, we are marching forward. um,
Uh huh, uh huh,
God,
uh
that
huh,
was
and that's the way. We like it.
uh-huh. So, we will be recording the next episode next Tuesday, March 1st, and it will be dropping next Friday, March the 4th. And that's why we're marching forward.
Horde,
Forward.
a
For,
horde,
forward. and,
horde.
and love you, brother.
Love you too.
Looking forward to Saturday night with you. Can't wait to share our experience with
Absolutely.
everyone next week. Um, Cheers, brother. Thank you so
Cheers
much
to
for
you.
all that you do. And thank you so much to our One Set fam for tuning in and just listen to us kind of shoot the.
Whoopsie. Yeah, man. Happy birthday. Happy early birthday to you, buddy.
All right. Love you, man. Love
Love
you,
you.
everyone. Talk soon.